Hi, how are you? This is Dr. Damaris G, Integrative Family Nurse Practitioner, and thank you for another episode here on Mindfully Integrative Podcast. So today's episode is with our mindful chat with Grace, Chef Grace, and she has Chef Grace's Place, a YouTube and podcast channel. So first, I wanted to introduce you to her. She is not only a chef, but an author of a cannabis infused foods called Verde Cooks. And she has many of other things that she can share with you today. And first off, I wanted to say thanks, Grace, for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. So tell the listeners and those watching a little bit, one of those quick fun facts about you, not only just your professional stuff, but like something kind of fun that, they may not know.
A lot of people don't know, which is the other part of my health. When I'm not eating, I'm doing jujitsu.
Jiu-jitsu, see, that's very exercise, wellness based. You're moving your body. What got you into that?
Well, when I was a kid, my father died, and my mom decided to throw us kind of into jujitsu just to so we wouldn't get off track. We wouldn't go be bad kids. Basically,
Oh,
we
I
were
mean,
already doing it like when it was during that time, but we really got into it, and my twin brother and I, we became the best in the country in our age groups. So it's something a lot of people don't
just
know
a,
about
just a
me.
little that just a little fun fact. I mean, you brushed over, your dad passing and that you had to find an outlet for this, or your mom was helping you find an outlet for what you guys were going through and like that struggle in itself. But you found jujitsu and now you were the best at it in your age group. That's not a little nothing, even though we haven't even gotten into you being a chef. That's not a little nothing. You should be pretty proud of that.
Yeah, yeah, and now my brother's opening a jujitsu school in Nevada, which is cool. Um, so we continued it, but it's I was really surprised. You talk about mindful, like jujitsu has definitely shaped kind of like my mind and how I think and do that because I started at such a young age, I think, and it's just a good, it's a good way to say, okay, I'm going to pick myself up and try again. It really teaches you
Pick
that
yourself up. You've got focus, determination. You're building
confidence,
your business. What?
yeah,
Say that again.
confidence.
Confidence. Yeah. I mean, the list probably goes on for you.
Yeah.
So discuss with us kind of your story in your as a chef and how did you become Chef Grace? And was there major struggles that kind of got you into like this new YouTube channel, this podcast, and where you're at today?
Well, I was always interested in food. My first job actually kind of ties in with the jujitsu. One of the guys at I used to teach like the adult class sometimes because we were that good. And the guy in the class opened a bagel store across the street from my high school, and he was like, "Hey, yo, Gracie Slick over here. You gonna come? You gonna make the bagels? See you at 4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday." And I was like, "Okay," because when you go to culinary school, a lot of them require 6 months of food industry experience. So it was really hard for me to find a job in a kitchen because I was a woman.
Oh
And
wow.
back then, they only wanted girls, young girls, to be counter girls. So
Hmm.
this was a unique opportunity because I could, although I had to answer the phones and do that, I got to work on the cold prep sandwich station, and I was there in the morning when they were making the bagels and stuff. So I got to kind of help out with that.
Mhm.
But it was really hard to get a job in a kitchen being like a 14-year-old girl, you know?
Just
So,
trying to make it and try to like grow, and because you knew that was kind of something that you were your passion was, and
yeah.
food and kind of and what they do. growing from that. Now, so you had the bagel shop. So what went from there? So you were doing your jujitsu, you going to school, starting into the working. So how did it grow from that?
So from that, then my one of my best friends, his older brother, inherited a pizzeria. He was a pizza boy at this shop, and the guy died. The owner died and left him the pizzeria.
Oh my gosh. Wow, what a big thing.
Yeah. So again, I had to stand there. I was standing there for like 4 hours begging him to let me not be a counter girl and let me work in the kitchen. So he was like, all right, well, if you can clean out this grease trap that they had just dumped rotten ranch dressing into, then you can work in the kitchen. So I did that, and it was the most disgusting smell I've ever smelled in my
Oh, it
life.
sounds disgusting. Other than
And
like fish, I don't know, like old fish, like that probably was nasty.
yeah, it was nasty. And then my this was before, because I have a very severe shellfish allergy. But it didn't. It started when I was around 12, but it didn't really
Oh
get
wow.
super severe till I was like 18.
Okay.
So he had me cleaning the calamari. That was like one of my first jobs in the kitchen.
Oh wow. But this is before you knew you had an allergy.
Well, I knew I had an allergy to, at the time, it was just shrimp, like crustaceans. So the
Mhm.
cephalopods were okay, the mollusks were okay, but now I'm allergic to all that. So that sucks.
Oh, gotcha. That so like now you're more sensitive or you can't even be near it. Just if
I'll
you
break
touch it.
out knives if I touch it.
Okay. So you're more sensitive to it. And you're more aware of what you can and can't put in your body at this point, probably.
Yeah, and like if there's a sauce or something that I'm like, this might have shellfish in it, I'll actually rub it on my skin and see if I break out in hives, and then I'll know I can't eat it.
Oh, yeah, well, that makes sense. Yeah, I bet you're
Because EpiPens are expensive.
yeah, I wouldn't even want you to go there. So tell me more in kind of your transition into your YouTube channel, Chef's Grace's, Chef's Place. It's great. It's Chef Grace Place, right?
Yeah, it's Chef Grace's place. And usually I feel like when people, there's a thing in the kitchen where, like, if you want people to call you chef, like, you're kind of like hoity toity asshole, you know? Like,
Uh-huh.
why? And usually I would just go by Grace. But when I started my YouTube channel, there, like, I'm 30 now, and the, in my age group, there's like nobody named Grace. But like a few years back, Grace became like a really popular name. So now
Mhm.
there's all these like 11 and 12-year olds with YouTube channels. Grace is
Wow.
plays, Grace is this, Grace is that,
Mhm.
or like church channels.
Oh
So like
goodness.
I
Okay.
had to put the chef in front of it just so it would be come up on the first page in search.
No, but I think it makes sense. It's who you are. I mean, you are a chef. I mean, what kind of
Yeah.
chef are you? So talk to people about what your not only what you worked on, like and as a teenager, but you went to school where you went for pastry chef. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I went after high school and I getting my feet wet in the kitchen over there doing the calamari. I went to the restaurant school at Walnut Hill College in Philadelphia and I got my bachelor's in pastry. And I was actually the salutatorian of both my associate's class and my bachelor's class, which was pretty cool because it was
That's
in,
pretty awesome.
yeah.
You know your stuff not only on the books, but like, experimental and working in it. Throughout this time, was there anyone that kind of inspired you or a success? First, let's talk about a successful part of your training that kind of made you grow, and then someone that inspired you or
There's a lot of different chefs I looked up to because they're it's so specialized. So like chocolate, like Jacques Torres was probably one of my favorites. He's the host of Nailed It now. Uh,
oh yes, I totally watched that show. Oh my God, he's great.
yeah.
It's so
So,
fun. And that's a really good, like, just fun show to like laugh.
yeah, and he
Like,
had a like a special like I don't even know what it was called, honestly, but he was on TV when I was a kid. And I remember him making his friend sent him a Eiffel Tower made out of chocolate. Like, and it looked very like molded, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then he just made a Statue of Liberty, like modeling chocolate and like, the torch, like he just made it.
Wow. Wow.
I was just like, you could play with chocolate like that? Like I had to be like 8 years old or
That's so
something.
neat. Oh my God.
I was like, I want to do that. So there's so many factors that just like kept pushing me towards food.
Mm-hmm.
And
And,
even when I was a really little kid, I used to tell my grandma and my aunts that like I wanted to be a farmer because I thought that you had to grow the food in order to cook the food. Like I didn't realize
oh,
like there was a
a
separate
connection.
person that did that.
No, but when you think about it now, I wish more people would be able to grow their food or know where it came from, because what we put in our bodies, is a direct reflection of life, things. So that would be cool though. Like, I mean,
Yeah, well, that's what I didn't know. I was so ahead of my time as like a 4-year-old.
you are in a way. And then now you do pastry, but you've wrote a book called Verde Cooks, which is cannabis infused foods, but you've also done your podcast and your YouTube channel that gives people teaching tips in the kitchen. So kind of elaborate on both of those things for me.
So the cannabis. So after graduating culinary school, I was working like mainly fine dining establishments. But so that's like kind of where I got my like that was the most challenging environment. So that's why I
Uh-huh.
wanted to do it because I'm a very competitive person. But um so during in college I dated this guy who was a veteran, and I noticed everyone was smoking weed to kind of treat their PTSD,
Mhm.
and they weren't like they were getting all the side effects of smoking. So you get the yellow teeth, you get the cough. It's not good for
Mhm.
you.
No, it's not
So
good. Like they're still smoking, they're still inhaling things, they're still putting something into their body that may detriment them. So they're not getting the therapeutic effect of a cannabis or a hemp or a tea. Like there's the medical health benefits, but they're getting all the negatives too.
yeah,
Hmm.
I started making edibles from them, and that's how I got into that. But then I was working in these really high stress environments, and I was kind of burning out. I had broken up with him, and I was working kind of like around New York, New Jersey, like kitchens there, and I had I'd started in this one kitchen, and the person I replaced, they were talking all the shit about her because
Hmm.
she had left because her lifestyle blog, her blog got so successful, and she had written this post like, I don't know why I wasted my life in a kitchen. There's so much out there to experience. And I'm listening to talk shit about this girl, but then I'm also with them and they're shitty and they're
Oh.
miserable. And I'm
Hmm.
like looking around, I'm like, best case scenario, I turn into these people. Like, fuck. So
Yeah, you're like, hey, I mean, like you kind of go, well, I really need to reevaluate this.
yeah. So then because you don't make enough money working in a kitchen to open your own restaurant, like unless you get like an angel investor in there, like
Mhm.
good luck.
Yeah, yeah.
So I that's when I started applying to be a flight attendant. But as I was applying, I got this opportunity to go teach, and I had been making food for the 1% of the country, like
Mhm.
the top
The high
people.
end.
And or the not the top people, they're not great people, the richest people.
The richest people. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So then I got this opportunity to teach people who were down on their luck, coming out of rehab, coming out of jail, coming out of whatever, how to cook, and teaching jobs pay way better than just working in a kitchen. So I was like, oh, this is great, So I started doing that, but then there's a whole other thing, and the program shut down, and
Mm.
people I was teaching, they all went back on drugs and stuff. Kind of sucked, but
Oh, but you tried. You made an
that's
effort
good.
with your teaching to kind of transition them. That, I mean, the fact that you tried to help with one or two of them is still a factor. It's still, you still made a difference there. And you
And
went
they're
into,
doing better now. Like they went, they went back, uh, they relapsed or whatever after, that was a traumatic event. You're finally
yeah,
getting your shit together, and then these people kind of pull the rug out from under you.
yeah.
Um, but they're all doing actually pretty well, like
See,
today. So that's nice.
that's good.
Yeah. But so then during that time, that's when I was like, I'm gonna be a flight attendant. I'm gonna live my life like Anthony Bourdain. I'm gonna be a flight attendant. I'm gonna travel all
Okay.
these countries. I'm gonna eat everything. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did that, and I got a job with Norwegian Airlines, and I was lucky because it was only international. Which, if you're a flight attendant, usually you were you work for like 20 years before you get to leave the country. So
Oh my.
I was so excited. But then I got kind of like I had a lot of free time. Like I'm used to being busy all the time. So that's when I started writing the book about cannabis, and my kind of
Mhm.
like reflecting on that and how it could help people. But
And you
then
wanted to help people because you knew it was going to have benefits, and it had benefits for your ex-boyfriend, but PTSD. And there's tons of research now how cannabis is very effective. I've done a whole course on education on how it has effects in the healthcare field, and there's a lot of research now too.
and specifically as like because being a flight attendant, there's a lot of people have sleeping problems, but also a lot of people have arthritis. I noticed,
Yes.
and
Oh, in the field because they're probably on their feet a lot. They're carrying stuff. They're moving stuff, right?
yeah, and CBD is like I know people who will take the tincture who wake up in the morning like this, like they can't move, all
Mhm.
they're clenched, and they have their CBD, and like an hour later they're fine. That's slowly.
The
So
inflammatory response on them was so high, then they're able to. That makes sense. I mean, it has a lot of the anti-inflammatory properties.
yeah, so it's just like you know that oil stuff doesn't taste great. Like we can make it better.
Yeah. So, and then you came up with a book. I mean, do
Yeah.
you, and I mean, that's pretty cool. So, and that's called Verde Cooks, right?
Yeah, and then but it was hard because I was like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna sell everything, and then when you have an online business, Google's a monopoly, so is Facebook, you know. So I got banned from buying ads and promoting my stuff on Facebook because it was cannabis related. Even though I wasn't selling
Mhm.
cannabis, I'm
No,
selling a
you
book,
weren't. It's nothing like that. It's
and
just it's an educational book.
and it took them a year and 2 months before they even got back to me on the appeal.
Hmm.
And there's no one to call, you know? So it's
Yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate.
so it was kind of like dead in the water, but it's still on Amazon.
Yeah, that's good. Still on Amazon. And then,
Link will be in the description.
yeah, I did. I put it in the description on the show notes. And when you look at it now, this past year, you transitioned even from that setback. You said you had the setback with, oh, so you were flight attendant. That was COVID happened.
Yeah, so then COVID happened.
COVID happened. That's I saw that in
And
your bio.
while I was flying, after I wrote the book, I decided that I was going to teach at Sur La Table too. Um, and both of those businesses got shut down in the pandemic. And I was just
Wow.
like,
What do I do?
out of a job, out of an income. Um, so I started growing food on my patio, number one.
Nice.
Because food security is really important because it was such a shit show.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It was a mess for everyone, for a lot of us.
And
Yeah.
it still is.
Yeah. It's still not 100%.
And
Yeah.
I realized, like, I just realized that everything is going to move towards virtual. Like,
Yeah.
there's, especially now, because now people are used to it,
Yeah.
that it's not going to stop. So I was like, how do I call it being an individual instead of an individual.
Oh, you're individual. I call it, I mean, I try to find ways to connect. So, I mean, here, a perfect example, I started a podcast with about a month ago or two. And I'm, I want to find connection and find these inspirational people. I mean, you're transitioning your life from online as a chef, but also, finding ways to writing a book. You've done a lot. I mean, and it takes time, and you've kind of tried to find mindful ways to just like reset your life. And I think it's a lot, but I find that you're an inspiring person to someone in one of these listeners that are here or seeing you being like, I want to cook. I want to, learn more about this. And how do people find out about you? And I'm going to put the notes in the show notes, but I want, if you have anything to add for today's episode, I'd really like you to chime in.
Yeah, you can find me at Chef Grace's Place on YouTube. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome.
It's got pretty much all the content. Love it when people comment and ask me
And
things and whatnot.
do you have a chef tip or a recipe that you want me to add in the notes or something you want to talk about on that for as a
Something I think that would help a lot of people, which because you were putting that thing about mindful chewing yesterday,
I did.
and it just got me thinking about because for a second you were talking about like planning out your meals,
Yes, meal planning.
and I I have a specific method for that. I'll figure out how to make a video for it.
You
But
should. You're going to make a video. So soon, check her out. She's going to make a video on meal planning because people need to know how to do this.
yeah, but it's more about solve your boredom with food, and you won't like you won't go out to eat as much. You know what I mean? You won't be
Spend
like
less money.
spend
You'll be
less
able
money,
to
eat
mhm,
healthier
be
because you're
healthier. Yeah.
having home cooked food. So what I did was I developed a system where you cook in components instead of in like meals.
You have to teach your audience and come back on the show again when you get the videos up because I want people to see them and because we need people to understand how to do it because sometimes those simple steps will help us.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too. I mean, I try to meal prep on my own, but I want to hear from an expert in the field of, food.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where I forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I must have lost your train of thought on that. But like really, I feel like, the prepping, that's one thing, mindful eating. But I mean, I appreciate, you coming on the show, talking to our listeners about like different things in your in your business and how you've even incorporated healthy cannabis infused foods for individuals so I love that what you're doing and that you're transitioning your work and your balance to make it better and kind of get through this pandemic even though it's been challenging for all of us and for you especially people need to hear that.
Yeah, it definitely changed my perspective on um like what I've always had a pretty good perspective on how like are you working to live or are you living to work? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Also,
totally.
even more so now, like, one of my goals is to make this, make my YouTube channel profitable so I could save up. And I really would like to start like a homestead so I have more. Like, I can't tell you how much joy gardening has given me
Oh,
last year.
awesome.
I have,
You should also, I mean, if not should, but maybe at times talking to people about gardening and their food, like on that end, is still another part that people don't really know how to do. So,
yeah, I started making shorts in my videos
Oh, cool.
about, because like I have a video where I make a caprese salad, but then I also have a video where I show you how to I cut the basil to bring it in to so it'll go more
Mm,
flavorful, and
yum.
how to save tomato seeds so you can grow tomatoes. Like
Delish.
trying to bring it all together.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Well, I can't wait for you to be on the show again. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And listeners, you got to check out Chef Grace and Chef Grace's Place. I'll have all those links available for you. And thank you again, Grace.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course.
You have to come on my podcast next.
Oh yeah, anytime. So listeners, thanks for joining in on this episode of Mindfully Integrated Podcast, and make sure that each and every day you're finding a mindful way. Thanks and namaste.